So I will introduce our first key responder now, which is Carla Denyer, councillor and co-leader of the Green Party.
Good evening, everyone. So as instructed, I haven't prepared anything because I came here to listen rather than to speak. And I thought that what I heard is very powerful and it rings really true for me. I feel similarly to Alex that as a moderately young person, you know, a lot of this is true for me too. I grew up knowing about climate change since I can remember. I grew up feeling really angry that the generations before me had, or at least some of them had known about this and chosen to do nothing. So I, yeah, had quite a strong emotional response to the people that were saying that, and yeah, I mean, I agree basically, and it is frustrating that it's falling to my generation and the next generation to try and solve this crisis that we didn't create. I too have found that doing something about it is the best way to alleviate eco-anxiety. Even if what you're doing is small or it starts small, it still feels a lot better to be pushing in the right direction. And as Bill McKibben, who is a US environmental activist, apparently said a little while ago in response to the question, what can individuals do to tackle climate change? His answer was something along the lines of, be less of an individual. So rather than thinking of yourself as an island and that you have to somehow deal with this on your own, remember that you're part of a community, whether that's at your school or college or in your family or in your neighborhood or whatever, and work together. And I feel like Leah, the final person who spoke, when she said the more people digging at the roots, the faster we can uproot the system, summed that up really well. I also shared the view that the force to drive for change that comes inside you is really powerful and sort of comes from somewhere else. That's kind of how I feel as well, not in a religious way so much as just it feels irresistible. Like when I had my epiphany about quite how bad climate change was, it was really like, it wasn't even a decision. It was just a, okay, well, I need to spend the rest of my life trying to fix this then, and I'll change every aspect of the course of my career and life in order to do that. So yeah, I really share that feeling. In terms of what I can do, well, as a councillor on Bristol City Council, I am one of 70 councillors. I'm with the Green Party. We are not, unfortunately, part of the administration in the council at the moment. Sorry, I shouldn't be party political. In my opinion, unfortunately, we are not part of the administration. And so we don't have very much hard power to change policies on the council because Labour runs it and makes all of the main decisions. However, we do have some soft power to persuade those who do have the purse strings and who can make these decisions to do the right thing. And we'll be doing that this evening, actually. As soon as I leave you this evening, I'll be going straight upstairs into the main chamber in City Hall where I am now. And I and my Green Party colleagues will be putting forward some proposals for a workplace parking levy, which would charge companies that provide free parking spaces to their employees a small fee, and that fee would help to pay for massive improvements to public transport in the city. So that's an example of the kind of thing that local councils or councillors working together can achieve change. And I guess with my other hat on as the co-leader of the Green Party of England and Wales, I am not yet an MP, hopefully will be one day, but in the meantime I can use the platform that's afforded me as a leader of a party, you know, on the TV and radio and so on, to put forward bold ideas and to press politicians from other parties and to an extent other decision makers as well from business and even the media, who, let's be honest, don't always report climate issues in the most helpful way, to sort of gently but firmly press them in the right direction and make sure that they understand that the public increasingly have the appetite for bold action on climate change. And so the politicians from the other parties don't need to kind of hide behind the public and say that the public aren't ready for change, because survey after survey comes out showing that actually they are. And so it's time for politicians to step up. And so, yeah, that has been my priorities for a while, and it will continue to be so. But if you feel like I haven't got that right, then tell me.
So next up, we have Jim Dorey, who's in the room, who is the Chief Exec of Bristol Chamber and West of England Initiative and Exec Director of Business West. Who's going to come and speak and respond to the young people today. So.
Thank you, Alex. I think I'm unmuted. So good evening to everybody. Great to see people both online and clearly in the room here. Slightly disconcerting to see actually up in the boxes up there as I sat down my father's face, in fact my mother's face as well, because my father is he's a trustee of the Creative Youth Network, so he's not at the younger end, and nor I'm afraid am I. Actually, I'm 52. It's a privilege to be here and to have listened to you, and I have really tried to genuinely try and listen rather than well just try and take in what you're saying. I think and I'd say I align as a person and in my role, but first and foremost as a person who lives in Bristol, was passionate about this city and this place and the people of it. I align with your fear, anger, I think a sense of concern and worry, and I suppose, you know, in my quieter moments at times thinking, is our system able to adjust quick enough? But also I don't certainly align with what all of you said, actually. I think pretty much around recognizing that we need to focus on hope and about actually there is a pathway forward. But I think that sense also of responsibility you talked about as younger people, that actually this isn't an issue which is just for other people to deal with, and actually impacts, doesn't matter where you're from, who you are. I mean, clearly it's a global issue for every human being. Someone said to me, actually the planet would still be here, but humanity perhaps wouldn't if we get this horribly wrong. I don't know all the science behind it, and I think nobody knows all of the science behind it. And we are in a position, I sense, and I speak as somebody with a sense of influence. My day job, I represent lots of businesses and employers across this part of our country. Bristol, Bath and the broader region, we have 22,000 businesses that work formally as our members and engage with us, some very closely, others less so, but they certainly do tell us what they want and what they need. And I think climate is the issue of our generation. We certainly, as an organisation, listening to our members and listening out there, really, we put it right at the centre about what we're doing around climate action. I don't think we do spend enough time listening in a really proper way to, at times, younger voices. We certainly try to, but I think there aren't necessarily always the mechanisms, or maybe we don't have the structures and the time. We find the time to do that and to make sure that you are directly part of the solution, or that actually we are working with you on the things that you think are important, not just what others do. I think some of the biggest role that we as an organisation, and me in my role, I guess, can do is to try and further alert and I think encourage businesses, employers, and people, clearly, because that's people, and businesses are run by people, that actually this is both, it is a threat and a concern, but also, and I think playing to a business mentality, there are opportunities, there will be new growth which will come out of decarbonisation, but also about actually making sure that the growth we have is in tune with the needs of our environment and our ecosystem. And actually, you know, if there are some positives out of the last 18 months, which undoubtedly there are, this kind of what some describe, the media describe as the Great Reset, I think there is a realisation, which I hope will sustain the future, about care for our natural environment. We have got an amazing natural environment in this city and not far from it, and in this country. But actually, we do need to nurture it. We have to value it in a different way. I think there are, and I see in the job that I have, a huge amount of change, and both from the money people, as it were, the investment side, the financial side, but also I think from often organizations, often driven by the bottom up, by some of the sometimes the people not necessarily at the top of those organizations. I think recognizing that actually we do need to do growth in a different way. We do need a sense of responsibility about growth, aligning with people's values, which relates back to our communities and our natural environment. I think we are a fertile place in this area to I think show others what is possible, but the speed by which we need to act is uncomfortably fast, I think. And I guess none of us know whether that's possible. But I think, as you have said, we have to work with hope and with, in our waking hours, how we can jointly do that. And I speak as a father as well, somebody who thinks about the future, for not just for me, but for my children and clearly lots and lots of others out there. So thank you for the chance to listen. I think I've given you a few of my thoughts. Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Mohammed Sadiq, Exec Director of Wessex Water and Chair of the Bristol Green Capital Partnership. I'd like to invite on stage as our final responder.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. I was making a few notes as I too was incredibly privileged to hear of the amazing work that you are all doing, and thank you for being so open with your thoughts. Alex, your own passion around climate change and fighting all the challenges associated with climate change. Lily, who spoke so elegantly around the motivations around activism and highlighting the rather astonishing facts that over 60% of youth are actually genuinely concerned about climate change. Jude, who went on to talk about his practical way of demonstrating his own feelings about climate change by walking from Hemden Bridge to London, a remarkable feat. And then I was really, really jealous when the Avon School Eco Network were talking about all those really, really important people that you managed to speak to at COP26, and demonstrating not only the power of going and speaking to influential people like that, but also working around the benefits of social media and how impact that in itself can be. Leah, wow. You talked about yourself in a way of, from a perspective of privilege, and I will come back to that. And you talked about being educated, having a wonderful, good home, and not having to worry about food. It's interesting that when I first became chair of the Green Capital Partnership, one of the conversations I had with a very influential kind of unnamed leader within the city when I talked about the importance of climate change was, well, how does that reflect with those folk who don't have food on the table? And how do you explain climate change against that narrative? And it made me pause and think. And it's probably those same individuals who have least contributed to climate change that are suffering the most. And I will come back to that point again in a minute. And what Carla then spoke about was really the anger that is present within many of the folk within our communities who genuinely want to see change and want to see change, tangible change, quickly. And what is it that we can collectively do to help provide a catalyst towards that? Well, we know that Antonio Guterres from the United Nations is Secretary General, so almost as important as it gets. His description of where we are is we're heading towards a total disaster And what we need is transformative ways of making a difference. So really not pussyfooting around. He's basically saying, look, this is really serious, this stuff, and we really need to make a difference.